According to the Santa Fe Ring, it didn't exist, and members merely called themselves friends. In reality, it was a corrupt collusion of public officials that infiltrated New Mexico Territory's 1870s government, law enforcement, and military, having been enriched by theft of vast Mexican land grants sold to cronies or kept by the Ring's founders, attorneys from Missouri, Stephen Benton Elkins and Thomas Benton Catron. The Ring's takeover was violent, with malicious prosecutions, assassinations of opponents, and crushing of the people's uprisings against its tyranny. Billy Bonney, branded by the Ring as the outlaw Billy the Kid, made famous the biggest and bloodiest of the defeated freedom fights, the 1878 Lincoln County War, testified futilely against its murderers, and was killed by the Ring by 1881. Besides denying the Ring's existence, bosses Catron and Elkins claimed plausible deniability of guilt by using accomplices for their crimes. It took 100 years and the growing mafia for Congress to defeat the plausible deniability defense by passing the 1970 Racketeer-Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, RICO, to prosecute everyone in a criminal organization. It stated, if conspirators have a plan which calls for some conspirators to commit the crime and others to provide support, the supporters are as guilty as the perpetrators. But no Ringite was ever successfully prosecuted, and denial of its existence remained to modern times. Boss Catron's apologist historian Victor Westphal, in his 1973 book, Thomas Benton Catron and His Era, lied.
The Santa Fe Ring was a romantic imagination of a sinister organization with members dedicated to unqualified promotion of their own selfish interests, accompanied by connotations of violence, deception, deceit, fraud, and other nefarious implications. Thomas Benton Catron was present when the Republican Party in New Mexico was organized in the winter of 1867, and when the epithet Santa Fe Ring was applied to its leaders. While Catron was often assailed as leader of the Ring, he held that position by virtue of ability as a common spokesman for others interested in common goals.
And none of the scholarly late 20th century historians risked exposing the still existing Ring in their Billy the Kid history books, sticking to the Ring's outlaw propaganda about its adversaries. But the Santa Fe Ring was exposed best by unsung heroine Mary McPherson in the 1877 Colfax County War freedom fight, whose leader, Reverend Franklin Tolby, was murdered by the Ring. McPherson foreshadowed the Lincoln County War the next year by her written complaints to the federal government detailing crimes of T.B. Catron, S.B. Elkins, Governor S.B. Axtell, and 3rd Judicial District Judge Warren Bristol. In August of 1877, she sent to the Departments of Interior and Justice a booklet titled, In the Matter of Charges versus Governor S.B. Axtell and Other New Mexico Officials. She wrote,
that there has existed in Santa Fe for several years past a ring is now beyond question. That this ring has, by its power and influence, controlled all the offices, revenues, and courts of the territory, and that they have used this power to oppress, intimidate, and plunder the people, cannot now be denied.
Boss Catron had smugly denied Mary McPherson's accusations in a February 24, 1877 letter to Secretary of State Alphonso Taft, calling her insane. He wrote,
such an idea could only emanate in the brain of a crazy person. Lawlessness seemed to prevail in the county of Colfax. It is absolutely false that I have in any maneuver or at any time used my official position to oppress anyone instead of punishing the guilty. It is utterly false that the U.S. officials in this territory are in any manner engaged together so that the people are sufferers or that there is any combination among them for any purpose whatever.
Later, on May 20, 1879, Billy Bonney's loyal anti-ring attorney, Ira Leonard, tried to facilitate Billy's pardon with Governor Lew Wallace by informing him about the ring and its Lincoln County sub-bosses, Lawrence Murphy and James Dolan. Leonard wrote,
"They were a part and parcel of the Santa Fe ring that has been so long an incubus on the government of this territory."
But Ira Leonard was unaware of Lew Wallace's big secret. I discovered it when I read every document in the Indiana Historical Society's Lew Wallace collection, which archives all of Wallace's papers. To be noted is that Wallace kept all letters he received and kept copies of those he sent. And to be noted also is that all complaints about the ring by opponents had been dismissed as lies by troublemakers. But in Wallace's papers, I found irrefutable proof of the Santa Fe ring. As background, Lew Wallace, a past Civil War Major General, to his disappointment, in 1878 had been given the Backwater, New Mexico Territory governorship by President Rutherford B. Hayes for helping Hayes' successful 1876 election. Wallace had wanted an exotic ambassadorship like Turkey to enhance the novel he was writing, Ben-Hur. But that governorship became available in late 1878 when Hayes removed its governor, Samuel Beach Axtell, as scapegoating to hide ring boss Catherine's murder of his ring competitor and Billy the Kid's boss, merchant rancher John Tunstall. Wallace arrived in Santa Fe on October 1st, 1878. Added to his chagrin was his wealthy wife's disgust at Santa Fe, whose adobe buildings, including their Palace of the Governor's residence, she likened to an old brickyard. Worst of all, Wallace encountered the Santa Fe ring. Unlike its past documenters with freedom-fighting agendas, Wallace was simply terrified. So he made a secret plea for protection, not for expose, making his confirmation of the ring's existence irrefutable. I found it in his secret November 14th, 1878 letter to his Civil War friend Absalom H. Markland. To be noted, Markland had federal power and contacts as a founder of America's modern postal service. Wallace had been running scared from the encounter. The day before writing to Markland, November 13, 1878, Wallace, in office just 55 days, had published his amnesty proclamation, pardoning everyone not already indicted from the Lincoln County War. That was an attempt to placate guilty ringites, since ring opponents, including Billy the Kid, had already been indicted. So what did Wallace tell Absalom Markland? His bantering tries to mask his fear at facing the ring's destruction of his political career, or worse. He wrote,
"My dear Colonel, our mutual friend Mr. Hines, who will hand you this, goes to Washington tomorrow, and I write late at night. Enclosed, find a paper with markings which may interest you, and Mrs. M., to whom please give my regards. They will tell you with what success I operate to finish the outlawry in this territory and how it was done. After you have read them, a word as to my confirmation. I came here and found a ring with a hand on the throat of the territory. I refused to join them, and now they are proposing to fight me in the Senate. Ex-Delegate Elkins is head center in Washington. He is the fellow who got the Washington Sunday Herald to publish the lie which the paper enclosed contradicts. The paper, by the way, is the Democratic organ of the territory. Elkins will rely on Orth in the House and Davis of Virginia and Dorsey of Arkansas. You know Orth's grudge. Davis is Elkins' father-in-law. Dorsey was an associate of the ring in land grant speculation, which came to grief in New Mexico a few weeks ago. The paper upon which the grant was based was a forgery, and Dorsey knew the fact before he went into it, that is, before he went before the Surveyor General. Now, can't you turn out and help me in the business? You know everybody and just who to see and how to get at them. Give me a little of your old-time energy and do me a little of the old-style fighting, and write to me when you have looked the ground over. Say to Mrs. Markland that this is singular country. 6/7 of the population are Mexican, and so is society and the customs generally. I would like it, but I shrink from bringing my wife. After the Senate has pronounced on me, if unfavorably, of course I will go home. If yea, it is probable I'll go back any hour for my wife's sake. Write me, truly, your friend, Lew Wallace.
So we learn that Wallace had his secret letter hand-delivered by a friend. So afraid was he of the ring accessing it through regular mail. We learn that at Wallace's arrival to the territory, he found the ring with a hand on the throat of the territory. We learn that the ring pressured Wallace to join, the only existing evidence of that tactic. It's known, however, that the ring bribed Governor S.B. Axtell for loyalty with $1,800, half his salary. We learn that the ring retaliated against Wallace for not joining by threatening to block his confirmation in the Senate. Wallace names past territorial delegate Stephen Benton Elkins as the Washington, D.C. co-boss, which he possibly learned when the ring revealed its federal power to him. And Wallace then apparently put two and two together about how the ring ensnared federal officials with its stolen land grants, and wrote,
Dorsey was an associate of the ring in land grant speculation, which came to grief in New Mexico a few weeks ago. The paper upon which the grant was based was a forgery, and Dorsey knew the fact before he went into it. That is, before he went before the Surveyor General.
That was the Uña de Gato land grant fraud exposed by federal investigator Frank Warner Angel, who uncovered that Governor Axtell had been the ring's agent to buyer, Senator Stephen W. Dorsey. Wallace had ended his bombshell revelations to Markland with a face-saving rationalization that since his wife wouldn't like Santa Fe, if the ring blocked his Senate confirmation, he'd be happy to leave for her sake. But frightened Wallace had already tried to escape the ring himself. On November 18, 1878, 6 days before the Markland letter, and only 44 days in office, he'd floated, to no avail, a proposal letter to Secretary of State William Evarts, trying to get that exotic ambassadorship right away. He wrote,
Since the progress made in suppressing the insurrectionary troubles in Lincoln County, which was my special mission here, is accomplished, do you not think me entitled to promotion?
And after writing to Markland, Wallace nervously sought reassurance from Secretary of the Interior Carl Schurz about any removal attempts. On December 9, 1878, Schurz answered,
I have not heard of any intention on the part of anybody in the Senate to defeat your confirmation.
Though this was supportive, Lew Wallace was now undeniably factoring in ring retaliation to protect himself. That would seal Billy Bonney's fate. Just when Wallace was seeking favor from Washington superiors and continuing his fabricated war on outlaws, including Billy the Kid, to hide his protecting the ring, Billy contacted him by a March 13, 1879 letter proposing to testify against ring murderers of attorney Houston Chapman in exchange for a pardon. Wallace was in a bind of needing to demonstrate a response to another ring atrocity while wanting to avoid confronting the ring. So he made the choice that destroyed Billy's life. Let Billy successfully testify to indict Chapman's murderers, then never issue the pardon. So one could say that Wallace's selfish solution was his ultimate proof that the ring existed as a monstrous force for evil, while his letter to Absalom Markland had revealed how the ring broke him.